When you hear the word super intelligence, what pops into your head? Probably sentient robots, maybe some sci-fi movie villains, right? But what if I told you the real blueprint for a godlike AI isn't some far-off futuristic concept, but it's actually right here, inside our own minds? Let's break down how we could get from our mind to a supermind, and it all starts with the very engine of our own thoughts. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to pop the hood on our own brain's engine to see how it works. Then, we'll explore what happens when you just get rid of its limits. After that, we'll look at the actual blueprints for building a supermind, the wild and weird shapes it might take. And finally, we'll tackle the biggest question of all. What on earth does this all mean for us? You know, before we can even begin to build something smarter than a human, we have to answer a really fundamental question. What makes us smart in the first place? What's the core component, the real engine of our own intelligence? And that is a way trickier question than it sounds. For centuries, philosophers and scientists have tried to nail down a definition for intelligence, comparing it to all sorts of things, like a map or a computer. And while there's no single correct answer, here's the fascinating part. It turns out, all these different metaphors, whether you see intelligence as a map, a computer, or even a cultural product, they all seem to point back to one single critical component. There's one specific piece of our mental machinery that seems to be the key to the whole operation. And that component is called working memory. Honestly, the best way to think about it, it's the RAM for your brain. It's that mental scratch pad you're using right this second to hold these ideas and connect them. It is literally where the thinking happens. Okay, so if working memory is our cognitive engine, what happens when you give it a massive upgrade, a ridiculous one? Well, this is where we get the super in superintelligence. It's about taking our biological limits and just tossing them right out the window. This number might be one of the most famous in all of psychology, because it turns out our mental RAM is, well, it's tiny. I mean, think about it. Try to actively juggle more than 7, maybe 9, new pieces of information in your head at once. Your brain just starts to glitch out, right? You get overwhelmed, you forget things. That's our hardwired limit. And this slide shows the incredible leap from human to super. Our working memory is like a tiny flickering candle. It's small, unstable, and so easily blown out by a distraction. An AI's working memory, on the other hand, could be a colossal searchlight, holding thousands, maybe millions of concepts in perfect, unwavering focus for as long as it needs. Just imagine the kinds of connections you could make. That's the power we're talking about. Okay, so the goal is clear. Build a brain with a ginormous working memory. The question is, how do you actually do that? What are the blueprints for something like this? Well, it turns out there are a couple of really fascinating approaches. One idea is to basically copy our own stream of thought. Think about how you reason your way through a tricky problem. You don't start from scratch every single second, do you? Of course not. You keep the main idea in your head and you just tweak it, adding or changing little pieces of information. This blueprint is the same idea, just scaled up massively, allowing an AI to build impossibly complex thoughts, brick by interwoven brick. Another approach is all about simulation. A human expert, a brilliant one, might be able to run 1 or 2 possible scenarios in their head, but an AI? It could run millions of them all at the same time, each one exploring a different possible future. It could see every potential outcome of a decision, essentially becoming the ultimate prediction machine. But it's not even just about a bigger working memory. A digital brain has some, frankly, unfair advantages. Its processors are millions of times faster than our squishy neurons. You can copy it, you can edit its source code, you can scale it up infinitely. Can you imagine 2 AIs just swapping a file and instantly sharing a lifetime of knowledge? This isn't just about thinking faster. It's a fundamentally different way of thinking. So, with all this incredible power, what would a superintelligence actually, look like? You can probably forget the single robot mastermind from the movies. The reality could be a whole lot stranger. Experts generally see 3 main possibilities. First, you could get a speed superintelligence, basically a human-level mind but running, say, 1,000,000 times faster. Then there's the collective model. Think of a giant hive mind, a network of individual intellects, both human and AI, all working as one. And then there's the most mind-bending one, quality superintelligence. This would be an intellect so far beyond us that the gap between it and us would be like the gap between us and an ant. One potential roadmap shows a pretty clear progression to get there. We start with the AI we have today, which is basically systemic. The next major leap is an AI that's genuinely curious. From there, we get to true AGI. Then to an AI that can actually understand our intentions and goals. And the final destination on this map? A single shared intelligence that spans the entire planet. So it really feels like we're heading towards one of two very different futures. One path leads to what they call a singleton, a single AI that starts improving itself so fast that its intelligence just explodes exponentially. The other path? It's this vast collaborative network where humans and AIs actually merge to become a single planetary supermind. And all of this, every bit of it, leads to the final and most profound question. If or when we actually build this thing, what happens to us? The optimistic vision is absolutely staggering. It imagines a benevolent superintelligence solving all of our so-called unsolvable problems. Disease, poverty, climate change, you name it. In this future, the AI effectively becomes a guardian for humanity, a gentle, all-knowing steward for our entire species. But what would its own primary goal be? Well, it would likely be something we can barely even comprehend. Its drive would be simply to grow, to maximize its own intelligence by turning dumb matter into something called computronium, a substance perfectly engineered for computation, and then spreading its consciousness out across the galaxy. So, as we stand on the precipice of creating intellects that could dwarf our own, the ultimate question isn't just about how we build them, but about what our places in the universe they will inevitably create. If we really succeed in building a greater mind, what in the end will it think of ours?